Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 on solving inequalities. So, we are going to be looking at some more complex examples. So, let's start with this one. 3x plus 5 is greater than 2x minus 7. So, let's start by separating our two sides of our inequality. So, the first thing that we want to do is that we want to combine 5 and 7. So, I'm going to subtract 5 to move it to this side. So I'm going to subtract 5 from 7 as well. And I get left with 3x is greater than 2x minus 12. And now I have a variable on both sides. So I need to combine those variables, those two x's that I have, in order to only have one x, because we could only solve for one variable. So I'm going to do minus 2x and minus 2x, and I'm going to combine those because those are like terms. Since they both share an x, I can combine those. So 3x minus 2x gives us 1x, which is greater than negative 12. And 1 times x is just simply x. So we write this as x is greater than negative 12. And since negative 12 isn't on my number line, let's make a new one. And now, since this is a greater than symbol, and it doesn't have the line underneath, we're just going to have simply an open circle. So let's place an open circle over negative 12, and x has to be greater than. So I'm going to face the arrow towards whatever is greater than negative 12, just always to the right. Now take a moment to pause the video and try this problem out. And when you're ready, unpause it and let's work on it together. So here I have negative 4x minus 6 is greater than or equal to 2x plus 12. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to separate my equation, and I'm going to add 6 on both sides, and I get negative 4x is greater than or equal to 2x plus 18. And the next thing I'm going to do is I want to combine those two x's. So I'm going to do minus 2x because 2x is positive. I'm going to subtract it on both sides. And I get negative 6x is greater than or equal to 18. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply solve like normal. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6, but keep in mind that whenever we divide or multiply by a negative, the sign has to flip. And so we get x is less than negative 3. And now since this is a less than or equal to symbol, we are going to have that closed circle. So let's have that closed circle over negative 3. And since it's less than, we want to face it towards the numbers that are less than negative 3. That way. So now let's work on this one together. So we have 2 over 5x minus 3 is less than or equal to x over 10 plus 1. So let's start with our separation. And we're going to follow the same steps. We're going to add 3 on both sides. And I have 2 over 5x is less than or equal to x over 10 plus 4. But here I have two fractions. So I have two options. I could convert everything into a fraction into the same denominator so that I could combine them, or I could turn everything into whole numbers so that it could be a lot easier to work with. I prefer to turn everything into whole numbers, so we're going to do that. So we have to see what is our LCD here? What is our least common denominator here? And we could see that it's 10 because 10 is a common multiple of 5. So our least common denominator is 10. So we're going to multiply everything by 10. So we're going to multiply my entire equation by 10, and we're just going to distribute that to everything. So let's multiply. I'm going to do that over here. I have 10. Remember that 10, that whole number is always over 1. I'm going to do 10 times 2 over 5. 10 times 2 is 20. 1 times 5 is 5. 20 divided by 5 is just equal to 4. So this is basically going to simplify to just 4x. And we have 4x is less than or equal to, and now we're going to distribute that 10 to that x over 10. And now I could rewrite x over 10 as, remember that x always has a 1 next to it. So I could just simply rewrite this as 1 over 10x. X is still being multiplied, but I just wrote it as simply the fraction. So I'm going to do 10 over 1 times 1 over 10. 10 times 1 is just 10. 1 times 10 is just 10. 10 divided by 10 is equal to 1. So I am left with 1x plus 10 times 4 is 40. So now this is a lot easier to work with versus if you were to convert everything into fractions. And from here, I would just solve like normal. I would do minus 1x minus 1x, and I get left with 3x is less than or equal to 40. And the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides, and I get left with x is less than or equal to 40 over 3, which will just be simplified to 13.3 repeating. So the way that we would graph this is, let me just make a quick number line over here, is I will place this, we're still working with this is less than or equal to, so we're still going to have that closed circle. And since it's 13.3 repeating, we're going to place that closed circle in between 13 and 14, a little bit closer to the 13. And then we just put it facing whatever's less than 13.3, which is all these numbers here. Anything that is to the left, like that. And that's it. So try this last problem out, and when you're ready, unpause the video and let's work on it together. Now the first thing that I want to do is I want to distribute that negative 3 to the parentheses. So I'm going to distribute negative 3 to 2x and negative 3 to negative 1. So negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x, and negative 3 times negative 1 is plus 3 is less than 9. And now we could divide our inequality. And I'm going to follow the same sad method that we've been doing this entire time. So I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides, and I get negative 6x is less than 6. I'm going to divide by negative 6. And since I divided by a negative number, I'm going to get x is greater than negative 1. And so I'm going to place that open circle over negative 1. And since x is greater than, I'm going to put it facing to the right, towards all those numbers that are greater than negative 1. And that's it.